Welcome to The Connection Code, a podcast where we explore the relationships that make your life and work just a little bit better.
Hi, I'm Rachel Gilman-Rischel. I'm the founder of 3PR, focused on healthy food brands, and I'm also deeply obsessed with connections and making introductions.
And I'm Gina Anderson Cohen. I founded a health and wellness media company called A Sweat Life that tricks adults into making friends through fitness. And I'm working on a social gathering and event space in New Buffalo, Michigan called Petite Acres. I love gathering, friendship, and events. Rachel,
okay, Gina,
you got the question.
I did. Today's big question is inspired by our guest. She's an author named Laura Rubin. Really enjoyed this conversation we're about to dive into. But based on her book, which is called The Big Unlock, what role has journaling played in your life and how has it benefited you?
So I'm a sporadic journaler. I know you're more of a practiced journaler with a habit. Journaling comes in and out of my life. It's usually like big events or retreats or goal setting. And it's really helpful in those moments where maybe you take like 10 minutes to yourself and you're in a group and you're writing about like your perfect day and you use that to create your goals. That's been really helpful as an exercise. I also have journaled off and on, probably for the last 2 decades. I like it. It does help me think through things. I need to do it more. What about you?
Okay. I am a chronic journaler. I would say that I go in waves. I started, as I showed you, in 1990. I still have the diary because I'm a bit of a hoarder. And I have an entire bag of diaries from my entire life. I think I wrote almost daily, or at least a few times a week throughout junior high and high school, and then college up and down, and then my 20s. And now I try to make sure I do an annual entry for my birthday, and then one at the end of a year to kind of recap and think about what the year entailed. But I do love it because it's cheaper than therapy. It's always accessible. I never feel worse after I do it. There's always some upside of getting something out on the page. And then there's this like very specific joy of going back in time, opening old entries up and sort of reintroducing myself to who I was at that time. So I've been like glancing at this one off to the side and cringing at what an annoying 10-year-old I was. But I've also had moments where I spent a lot of time with myself in my 20s and I felt a lot of empathy for the breakups, the job changes, all of the growth that was happening. So when I talk to younger people, I always say, if you haven't started a journaling practice, I highly recommend it because there's so many benefits. And one is that one day you'll look back on these years and you'll want to remember what you were thinking and feeling.
I love that. Has there been like a journal entry that changed the way you thought about yourself now? Like you looked back and you were like,
Oh, that's a great question. I think one thing that's been helpful about journaling is perspective shifting. So when I get caught today in sort of the like, woe is me about whatever's stressful with parenting or juggling or whatnot, I'll go back to those 20s entries where I have no money and I'm living in a junior one bedroom and I'm working really hard and I'm dating unsuccessfully and like everything kind of feels up in the air. And I will know that my dream in my 20s is the life that I'm living now. And even though it's not perfect, but like I have a great partner and I have these wonderful kids and we have a home and I run my own business, like those things felt so unattainable at that moment and they felt so uncertain. And so reading old diary entries and realizing that everything I went through laddered up to today, I think is very helpful. And it's actually a good way to experience gratitude.
I love that. Well, should we dive into Laura? Tell us about her.
Yes, Laura's so interesting and she has one of the coolest jobs ever. So Laura Rubin is the founder of All's Well Creative, a mindful writing company devoted to cultivating self-awareness and creativity through journaling. She's also the founder of Ends Well, which is a nonprofit initiative that pairs trained journaling facilitators with underserved communities, what a good human, using the written word as a tool for healing, self-expression, and resilience. She has this new book. She hosts journaling workshops. She's incredibly interesting.
All's well, ends well. I love it.
I know.
Here we are with Laura.
Laura, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
We love authors so deeply. And so I wanted to start by saying congratulations. You have a brand new book called The Big Unlock, Liberate Your Creativity Through Mindful Journaling. I am a lifelong journaler. I made you look because I found my journal from 1990. Yeah. Still, I have
spiral bound.
Spiral bound. There's illustrations. I said today is so. This is not about me, but I am deeply, deeply connected to and support a journaling practice. But I want to know why it's so meaningful for you.
Well, I've been journaling since I was a single digit. I started when I was 7, when my mom gave me my first journal, intuitively recognizing it would be a good tool for me. And I really haven't stopped since. It has always been an intuitive, joyful, accessible practice for me. And it was about a decade and a half, just under a decade and a half ago, that I decided to start Allswell because I felt that journaling had such a bad PR problem at the time. And I wanted to shift the perception of what it meant to journal and really ground everything in science and elevate it through design as a way of building a bigger tent to invite more people in.
And the way you talk about journaling, Laura, is almost like this mini retreat that takes you back from the noise and the stimuli of daily life. As someone who is deeply overstimulated, how can journaling help rebuild attention day to day?
Yes. So from the moment we look at these brilliant little computers that we hold in our hands, first thing in the morning, we are in a constant state of react and respond. We're living in the attention economy. Our attention is bought and sold as a commodity, and therefore these businesses want as much of it as they can possibly get. So it's not someone's personal shortcoming or a lack of character that they're having trouble disengaging from technology. That's first and foremost. People divulge it to me almost as if they feel guilty. And I just try to say, like, have compassion for yourself. Like, all of these companies are betting in for your time and attention, so it makes sense that it's hard. By actually taking a little bit of time away from that react and respond loop and carving out a little analog space for yourself to come home to the page where you are actually in a position to ask yourself really basic but important questions like, how am I? How do I feel? What do I want? Is this right for me? Am I over this? Basic things that often we don't even really have the opportunity to check in and ask ourselves. It is nothing short of a revolutionary act these days. And it doesn't have to be analog, of course. I'm not a purist, but it is both my preference as well as where you will get the most benefits.
Okay, so you're saying literally putting pen to paper and physically writing as opposed to typing is the most beneficial form of journaling.
Yes. I'm a massive research nerd, so I've done all the research for you. And I can tell you that if you are journaling via a keyboard, you will still get benefits. It is so much more important for you to have any form of self-expression than none. But if you want the most benefits, there is a specific there are synaptic connections that get made in your brain that give you specific uptick in benefits, the mental, emotional, physiological. So if you're going to do it, don't you want the most out of it? For those of you who are productivity minded, it becomes a little bit more of like a carrot on a stick for people. I'm like, well, if you want the most out of your 4, 5, 10 minutes, but also really, I say better via any means at all. We don't need more journaling guilt. We don't need journaling stress. Let's just take that off the table.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
I was thinking about it, that how I have like an actual piece of luggage filled with all of these diaries from all these years of life. And there is something really cathartic about writing by hand. Yes. And I love paging through old notebooks, which leads me down a bit of a little rabbit hole. But how often are you journaling? and take us through any major epiphanies or creative breakthroughs you've had because of your journaling.
Oh my goodness. So I'm going to start with the second part and then go back to the first part. Journaling has given me almost everything in my life. It is how I make every major decision. And I am very fortunate that I have people in my life who care deeply about me, that are mentors, family members, friends, etc. And I seek their counsel, of course. However, when it comes time to make the big choices, I bring it all to my journal. I sift through it, and then that is the place where I decide what is true for me, what is right for me right now, as well as for the me that I want to live into. Because ultimately, these choices are our own. And it is everything from when it was time to pivot a business, move across the country, start a new business, not marry that nice guy, not go on tamoxifen, whatever those things are, big and small, they've all been decided in the pages of my journal. Additionally, it's how I vision, how I come up with ideas. And then not just like how I have an idea, but then how I actually go live into it and create action plans for myself. So it isn't just like me sitting there and like having like emoting on the page. No, it's also a utilitarian tool. And I use it in all of those different ways. So I tend to journal twice a day, which sounds like a lot. However, I don't necessarily journal for a long time at any given stretch, unless it's like a weekend and I have 20 minutes to devote to the experience. But often I'm just fitting it in 4 or 5 minutes at a time.
I love that. So this podcast is about connection, and it sounds like as I'm listening to what you're talking about with journaling, it sounds like you use journaling to connect more deeply to yourself,
Yes.
And to what's going on in your own mind and life and emotional world. Have you ever sort of gotten to know yourself better through this process, and what have you learned about you?
Oh my gosh. So like, I mean, more times than I could even count, and more things than I can even enumerate. It's like, again, it's given me almost everything. And sometimes I think a really good example is that I have at various different points in my life been fortunate to have a dream and achieve that dream, whether that's living in a certain place or professional benchmark, things of that nature. You can have a dream, achieve that dream, and enjoy that dream, and then be ready for a new dream. Mm-hmm. And we are not meant to be in stasis necessarily, and we are growing, changing beings. And just because something that you wanted for yourself at 22 or 32 or even 42 doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to fit you, in my case, at 52. So you can also recognize not just when it's not necessarily that there's anything wrong or bad, but I just have recognized it was time for the next thing.
I feel like I'd be remiss to have a journaling expert and not ask some tactical questions about journaling.
Absolutely.
For many years, to me, it was an outpouring of emotion or feelings or sifting through, almost like therapy on a page. And then in the last couple of years, I found myself bullet journaling a lot. I like to write down things that I want to happen or big hopes or wishes, from hoping that a friend of mine with cancer heals to wanting to get this particular thing for a client that would be really exciting, to in people in my orbit. You know, I hope my husband gets this new job. I hope that this vacation is really affirming and beautiful, enriching for us. So I kind of missed the long form, but the bulleting is obviously very efficient and I can do it in a couple minutes. In your journaling expertise, I'm not saying there's a wrong or right way, but do you have advice on getting the most out of your journaling practice? And if there are things that you recommend that are really useful if you're trying to dive into it?
Yes. So I have 75 different prompts in the book, and they are not meant to be a formula. I build out a suite of tools for people so that they can pull from them on any given day, and that they have what's available to them for what they need now, whether it is addressing a pain point or addressing something that will make their lives better. Because really, that's what most people are looking for, addressing one of those two buckets, either improving things or fixing things. And my personal way of journaling is not the same every day, every session, because I'm not the same person every day, every session. And even time of day, location, et cetera, impacts my journaling. And that's why I want to give people this suite of tools so that they have the autonomy to choose for themselves. And it is really about being in dialogue with yourself. What is it that you want from your practice that given day? Now, a lot of publishers wanted me to write a different kind of book. They really wanted it to be something that was a formula that everybody could follow. And I said, those books already exist. Those approaches are already out there. And that is not what I espouse. And that is not what I teach in my journaling workshops. And I was really fortunate to find a book editor and a publisher that let me write the book that I wanted to write, because I just believe that there are enough people that really want something that is more flexible. The same way, like we go to our closet and on one day we want cozy cashmere, another day we want the little black dress, and another day we want something very structured that makes us feel powerful, right? You want a suite of different tools in your closet. You want a suite of different tools from your journal.
Yeah. I love that. I'm going to take it back to relationships for a second. We see a lot of what goes on in our head can be reliving moments from conversations we've had with friends, or wondering what someone meant by something that they said. Are there prompts in your book, or are there ways that you personally work through those moments in conflict or even confusion in those relationships you have out in the world with people?
So often we are in a state of reactivity in interpersonal relationships. And there is stuff that is driving the bus for us that might be the 5-year-old version of ourselves reacting, or the 13-year-old version of ourselves reacting. And journaling, by getting it out on the page of what's really going on, sometimes leaches the reactivity out of your emotional state. Sometimes just by putting it down on the page, you are reducing the inflammation. Additionally, by actually spending some time with what you've just written, you're able to better parse out how much of this is my stuff and how much of this is real. You can also then map out discussion points of what you really want to bring into that conversation with your colleague, your lover, your friend, whomever. And you can actually have a more productive and inspiring conversation with them because you're clearer, as opposed to simply blowing up their phone with 75 text messages, and you will regret 74 of them. It is really a tool for you to be able to cycle through that reactivity and get really clear on what's real, what is actually not part of this dialogue, but probably old stuff.
Yes.
And then get really clear on how you want to communicate.
I wish I could think of where I'd also just read this, but it kind of comes together nicely that men would really benefit, perhaps even disproportionately, from a journaling practice or from trying to aggregate their feelings on the page and move through things. So I have been not so gently nudging my husband. I'm like, a lot going on right now. Maybe you should sit down and write about it. Just get it out, write through it, put it on the page, see what comes up. It has not happened. But I'm curious in your research and findings, especially on your book journey, how you think journaling is landing for men and why they might benefit so much from it.
First of all, Rachel, I applaud you for leading your man to the page. And just because he hasn't done it yet doesn't mean that he won't. Buy him a copy of my book. There is a whole chapter.
Yes.
There is a whole chapter called Bro Journaling. And
I love it.
Yes. And in it, I talk about the delta between the benefit for men versus women, men do actually reap more mental, emotional, and physiological benefit from journaling. And we can get into why if you like.
Yes, I want to hear why.
Yeah,
so there was a study that came out of UCLA that empirically it was able to prove this, and the professor was then saying, well, why? And his paper got into the cultural disparity between permissive self-expression for men versus women. Now, obviously, we're talking in massive cultural generalization, so give me grace here. But it doesn't matter like how embarrassing a day I have. I've got at least 3 girlfriends on speed dial, and I can tell them the whole truth. Men usually do not have that. They cannot accommodate the perception of what could be perceived as weakness or failure. As a result, they don't communicate with their spouse, with their male friends, or their colleagues. They don't have the same places to be able to share their concerns, their worries, and all of that stuff, all of those emotions get stuck. And those dust bunnies often turn into dust elephants. So men do benefit more from journaling. I have now led hundreds of workshops for thousands of people. And what I can tell you is that my favorite workshops are the ones where I am going into a corporate setting and it's a bunch of dudes with their arms crossed sitting at a boardroom table, and they're only there because their manager made them come. And that's when I'm like, oh, it's all going to happen, because it is generally in these settings where the biggest unlocks occur. These are the places where I see the biggest breakthroughs, where I get the thank you notes afterwards from somebody who has told me that their entire life changed. I was leading a journaling workshop in Costa Rica at the Auberge property there. And one gentleman who works on Wall Street came with his daughter. He was just keeping her company. And he didn't think he was going to get anything out of this thing, right? He had such major aha moments during the workshop. The next day, his wife came up to me and thanked me. She said, he hasn't stopped journaling. Thank you so much. I've been trying to get him to do something like this for decades. It's so wonderful. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, Laura, I'm hearing so many great tips about journaling for all types of people. I'm curious, what is something that you're seeing either from folks you've worked with in your workshops or people who are reading your book that make journaling stick? How do people make it stick?
I think it's about lowering the bar and really giving yourself an opportunity to actually create a habit, as opposed to making yourself do something that feels like another item on your to-do list that is unlikely to get accomplished. So my recommendation is what I call the 4x4x4 method. It is journal for 4 minutes at a time, not even 5 minutes, right? The busiest people I coach still have 4 minutes occasionally, and don't try to do it every day. Don't even set the bar that high. Say that you will journal 4 days a week, and then try to stick with it for 4 consecutive weeks. Now, this isn't Whole30. If you fall off the wagon, it's okay. You don't have to start all over. Just bring your attention back to the practice and keep rolling. The idea being that it is better to do something consistently in a way that is achievable, because what that means is you're giving yourself a nice little dopamine hit from a sense of accomplishment, right? You checked that box. Plus, by actually journaling for 4 full minutes, you'd be surprised at how much you can get out of 4 minutes, especially when using a prompt. And there will be times where you're going to hit that 4-minute mark and you're going to keep going. You're going to journal for 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever, because that is a more reliably attainable container versus what most people think of, where they're journaling in their minds. They feel like they have to journal for 25 minutes at a time. They have to be doing, drinking the perfect adaptogen laden matcha, be wrapped in cashmere, up before sunrise, and they've already done 45 minutes of chanting or something. And I don't know about you, but my life doesn't look like that. So it's about really lowering the bar, meeting people where they are, both in terms of lifestyle and also neurologically where we are, and making it accessible.
I love that you're saying this, that we don't have to influencer journal where the aesthetic has to be such. I mean, in my case, I have a red light hair cap, and it's a 6-minute cycle. So I will just journal for the 6 minutes until it beeps. And I feel like that time binds me really well. Yes.
Perfect.
But you said
habit stacking too.
Habit stacking.
Love a habit stack.
Who wrote that book? It wasn't Atomic Habits.
Yeah, Atomic Habits.
Yes. So you said a couple things where I was like, I want to be there. I'm like, I want to be in a beach resort in Costa Rica taking a journaling workshop. And then this man's epiphany. What is this workshop like? What are you sharing with the group that somebody's having a real light bulb moment?
Yeah. So every workshop is different because different people are at them. And through the sharing, no, I'm not asking anybody to share what they wrote in their journal. That would be super awkward and antithetical. But people do share about their experiences of the various different prompts. What's really beautiful is like that actually does color the experience. I have, at this point, over 50 different journaling workshops that I've created. So I pull from that catalog depending on who the group is, where I am, how long I have, etc. And sometimes I do fully custom workshops for different groups or brands. But generally speaking, the way that a journaling workshop that I lead, the way that it goes is that I bring people to the table, usually ask them a warm-up question to get their voices into the room. Usually we read some really inspiring nuggets from literary greats, not like kind of wellness gurus, like really, really fantastic pieces of literature that get the room feeling inspired and also shift our mindset. And then I walk them through a series of different prompts, and we start light and easy. And we start, just like in the kiddie pool. And through the course of the workshop, we're getting more comfortable with the act of writing. We're getting more comfortable with each other. And then what takes hold is a group flow state, which is incredible to witness. And by the end of the workshop, they are in the deep end and they're going for it. And they are uncovering things about themselves. But I don't start them there because that would be jarring and it wouldn't be effective. And generally, that is more or less the rhythm of a workshop.
That makes me want to come to one of your. Yeah, I want to go to your workshop. When's your next one?
To my workshop.
Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah, let's go to work.
Yes.
Well, it sounds like the kind of like retreat / summer camp that I want to go to as a 40-something at this point in life. Like, let us in. We're banging down the door, Laura.
I'd be delighted to have you. Truly, I would. And I lead digital workshops as well because, realistically speaking, not everybody's going to be able to go to the Auberge in Costa Rica. And I have different entry points for different people, not just geographically, but different price points because I want to make sure that this work is accessible. And it's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, because just because you can't necessarily align and pay for time with me doesn't mean that you can't get the benefit. It's why I have a deck of journaling prompts, and it's why I wrote the book, because I want to make sure that people, whoever has the desire to do this work, that they're getting the tools they need. And really, as opposed to a lot of like what we're seeing in the wellness world, one of the things I love most about this medium is its accessibility. The cost barrier is so low. It is there for you 24/7. You don't need a copay. You don't need a special outfit, right? It's just there. And it really is a very permissive opportunity because 24/7, you can tap it.
Yes. I'm smiling because, Laura, you're saying such true things about journaling. And it reminds me in the way that people want to chase really difficult, obscure wellness hacks instead of like drink more water or sleep well or get your steps in
Go to
or
bed.
write your feelings in a diary
Drink
or a
less
notebook.
coffee.
Yes, like it's one of those fundamental truths that it's going to make you feel better if you just do it. So my last question before our connection conversation is, what did you learn about yourself writing a book about journaling?
Oh my gosh, it was so humbling. It was such a humbling experience because here I am. I'm this like creative coach, and I've led all these workshops about creative self-expression. At this point, I have written a lot in my own voice. And then I wrote a beautiful book proposal in my own voice. I wrote 4 sample chapters and they were purchased, right? And then I started writing the book and I sounded like somebody entirely different. I was so in my own head. My imposter syndrome was so gnarly that like the first chapters that I wrote for my editor, initially I passed, thank goodness, I passed them through my agent first and they came back like red. And she was like, what's going on over there? I had to write my back to myself.
Yes.
And she said, like, what happened? I said, I was trying to sound like Arthur C. Brooks. And she was like, why would you do that? He's an old white guy. And I was like, I wanted to like I wanted to do the medium proud. You know, books are really sacred to me. I come from, my father worked in publishing. He taught me we're people of the book. Like, it's really a big deal. And I was all bound up. So I share this because I want people to understand when they are embarking on a new medium, when they're embarking on a big project that they care deeply about, and even if they are really good at whatever this subject matter is, or they're a novice, if they are uncomfortable, if their first drafts are cringy, it's okay because all of it is in service to getting to better drafts.
Yes.
Well, that's the perfect point to get into our connection conversation, Laura. I could ask you a million more questions too, but we only have so much time. Can you tell us the last connection that you made, last friend or networking connection that you made in real life?
When you say made, do you mean like new connection that I made in real life?
Yeah.
Is there somebody you sparked with or you had an interesting relationship moment arise?
I mean, so many because I've been on book tour, I have been sparking with and connecting with so many people. And it's a combination of people that are new to me, as well as people that I have known from various different parts of my life that are showing up at these events and making me feel like these events are like walking, talking scrapbooks in the most beautiful, fulfilling way. But recently, a girlfriend of mine threw me a really beautiful, elegant dinner after a book event. And I was talking with, her name's Amy Smilovic. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's the designer for Tibby. And she has a book out right now as well. And we were talking about the process of creative inspiration and burnout and how you stay creatively inspired. So that was a recent, meaningful, and very interesting conversation.
Oh, so what a gift that your friend threw you a dinner party.
Yeah, that's so
special.
lovely.
So here's like what's incredible is that I don't know how to promote a book. So
no one does. Nobody does.
I've never done this before. So I had this kind of like whatever the opposite of a pep talk is. No, it was a pep talk. It was a pep talk. A friend of mine who's a major literary agent for like really bold-faced names. She gave me an hour of her time last fall because I was totally overwhelmed. I felt like, okay, well, I just wrote this book and now you want me to do what? Like, I don't know how to do any of that. I felt like I was the patient and somebody just told me to scrub up because I was also the surgeon and I knew I hadn't gone to medical school. Right. So that was sort of like the man in the the levels of panic. And this woman said to me, no, it's you. You keep looking outside of somebody to like go do this for you, but Laura, it's you. And I was initially paralyzed and then inspired. And what I did was I just started asking people for help. Would you like to do something with me? Would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? Would you like to do anything? If it's not, it's okay. And I realized the ratio might be 17-3, but if you ask enough people if they want to do something, the answer is going to be yes. And I now have a 20-stop book tour as a result. And people are incredibly kind. They are incredibly interested in supporting books, supporting analog, anything. And they also, some of these people who I know quite well want to do things because they care about me, but other people just genuinely care about helping others. So it's been a pretty remarkable experience.
What a powerful and unexpected lesson as you're figuring out what to do with this book and how to bring into the world. But yes. I love that you're saying just make the ask, because Gina and I talk a lot about the discomfort of tapping your network or people you don't even know that well and saying, may I ask a favor? Could you help me with something? And it does feel very raw and vulnerable, but the upside can be incredible. You just have to ask and then be the kind of person that if it comes your direction, that you respond, I'd love to help as well.
Of course. Yes. And also this understanding that people will say no if they don't want to, and that's okay. So the ask is all right. And the understanding that people at a very high level know that this is how the game is played, and that they are asked for and ask enormous things all day long. And I literally didn't know that. I literally didn't know.
And the no's not personal necessarily. Yeah. The no might just be, I have finite resources and I can't, but I wish you the best.
Yes. And it's okay. And as opposed to the 1 out, 1 in model that I was using, and if I didn't get an answer or the answer was no, not right now, or no, thank you, I was on the floor. Instead, I understood like, no, you just, it's okay. Enroll them, invite them. And if it's not right for it, just keep going.
I've actually found, and then I promise I'm going to ask a question, that sometimes when you make your big ask and someone says no, and you're so gracious and understanding of their no, that oddly, it can turn into a yes later because you handled it with such poise and you didn't make them feel any guilt. And it's like, wait a minute. Okay, next time I can show up, I actually feel differently.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 And okay, maybe it's compassionate too. Go ahead, Rachel.
Yes, yes. Well, our second question, which we've kind of touched on, is the advice that you would give your younger self about connection.
I love this question. So I had the good fortune to lead journaling workshops for the Boys and Girls Clubs. And when I was prepping for that, I considered what is the piece of information? What would I want to whisper in my own 13, 14, or 15-year-old ear? And I realized that it really came down to dignity, self-worth, self-love, and that an excess of self-worth does not equal narcissism, and that actually those two things are at the opposite ends of the same spectrum. And I didn't know that. Most people don't know that, particularly young women. And we often cloak ourselves, dim our lights, pretend to be a lesser version of ourselves because otherwise we're afraid someone's going to cut us down. And unfortunately, young women are famously excellent at policing each other. So you are afraid of being your best self. And really, self-worth is the bedrock of all good decision-making. So I would tell that version of myself, don't be afraid, go for it, and keep going.
Wait, can you say that again? Self-worth is the bedrock of all good decision-making.
Self-worth
you should patent that.
Is the bedrock of all good decision-making. It impacts what we say yes to and what we say no to. No, we will not take that job. No, I don't want to go out on that second date. No, thank you. I will not. All of those things as well as yes, and I would like a raise. Yes, and I deserve more. Yes, and I am very comfortable in my own skin.
Put that in neon lights over the twins' doors.
Yes. As I mentioned, I'm raising these middle school girls who are very much in that stage, and the girl vibes are very dialed up. But I think that is an incredible piece of wisdom that I know I personally am going to hold on to. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And it's hard earned, right? It's through life and writing and considering, and these wonderful opportunities, is like decade plus of opportunities that I poured into the book. All of this is in there too, because I want to share this. It's not necessarily all my wisdom. It's things I've picked up along the way. And I do believe that I've been in a unique position to bear witness to all of these breakthroughs that I now get to share.
Well, that's lovely.
It really is great. I have the best job.
Yeah, you have a really good job. You mentioned that you've met a lot of people on this book tour. Who is someone who you haven't met yet? Who is a dream connection who you haven't yet met?
Well, it's a two-part answer. Is that allowed? Is that allowed?
Yes.
Okay. So one, Scott Galloway, because I want to do like more of this journaling for bros. And I feel like a lot of what he's espousing right now is so important, and really being able to give cognitive fitness and emotional well-being to these guys, because it's not just for the dudes. Those dudes, if they're emotionally better regulated and self-expressed, then they're going to be better partners, parents, boyfriends, colleagues, managers, etc. Right? So it's for the collective, and I I also really wish I could lead like journaling for jerks, like.
Yes.
All the jerks journaling.
Oh my God. Yes.
That's what
I can think of a few.
Yeah. I don't know like who would sign up, like who would opt in for that course. But what I'm trying to do is go into environments that are extremely unlikely, that are counterintuitive for this kind of work, whether it's, like in the corporate environment, et cetera, in like, industry tranches that you would never expect to see journaling. And that's part of what I am looking to attain here.
You need a jerk. One jerk to follow.
Oh, we've all got plenty of. So if I can get the jerks journaling, they'll be less jerky.
Yeah.
I support
that. Well, Laura, tell the listeners where to find you and where to find your wonderful book.
Well, they can find me online at allswellcreative.com. Definitely sign up for the newsletter, because then you are the first to know about all of the in-person and digital workshops. And also, I give away a ton of original IP online on my Instagram feeds, both Allswell Creative and my individual feed, which is Laura L. Rubin, Rubin, not like the sandwich. And that's more about my experiences as a working creative and founder and author. But I really try to make sure that I'm not wasting anybody's time there. And but most of all, like, buy the book and enjoy it, and let me know what you think, because I really genuinely care. And you DM me or email me, it will make its way to me.
Thank you so much. I actually really want to buy your book, not only for myself, but as a gift. I think it's a really thoughtful thing to bring into somebody's life. And I'm going to 4x4x4 it now.
Yeah.
I want to know how it goes. I want to know how it goes with the cap and the 6 minute. I want to know all of it.
Yes. That's just been
invested.
The bulleting, but now I can do better. I think I could go a little deeper and use your prompts.
Remember, lists count, and lists are a great container. So this isn't whether you include this or not, but lists are great. And I don't want you to denigrate your own list format. I think that what we can do is shift and morph it so that it is more flexible, and you're writing different kinds of lists. You're writing lists of things that you like, for instance, as a way of shifting your mindset and bringing your mind to things that are positive. It then creates like a lens that you're bringing through your day. Also gives you a nice serotonin bath. So there are lots of different ways for us to utilize your list, like a done list. There's all sorts of things. It's all in the book. But please don't be so hard on yourself. You're already doing great.
Thank you, Laura. This was such a delight. Rachel's our journaler. I will become a journaler, I swear.
Pulling you in.
Well, I'm here for you. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Laura was fantastic. I think if anyone's going to make me finally commit to a journaling practice, Rachel, it is you and Laura together.
I think I might text you at bedtime and be like, have you journaled yet? Like, let's do it while it's hot.
Okay, great idea. I think it could happen. I'll lay out my workout clothes with a journal, and that could be the thing. We'll habit stack, put it in a pile.
Yes. And also I was like, I want to go to a workshop in Costa Rica and have like a deep creative breakthrough about myself. I applaud her for creating this pathway.
Yeah. Well, what a fun life too. It's leading people to themselves, like very, very fun and meaningful profession.
Yes.
All's well that ends well.
I also like that she was really honest about how hard it is to write a book, because I hold authors in such high regard, but it's helpful to know that it's not a seamless process.
Yeah, I feel like we are hearing more honesty from creatives as of late, and I like that because it's never a straight line when it comes to creativity or when it comes to even putting something down, putting your thoughts down. It's like a zigzag. And that's the simplest. That's the simplest line it could be, from thought to book.
Yes.
Yeah, she's wonderful. Thanks for bringing her.
Of course. So this feels like a good segue to your show and tell.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a show and tell for both of us, Rachel. So what I brought today is this acclaimed book that also really centers journaling, called The Artist's Way. If you haven't heard of The Artist's Way, it is like a multi-week commitment to your creative pursuits. So every day of The Artist's Way starts with morning pages. Morning pages are the thing. If you say morning pages out loud in an art gallery, everyone will know what you're talking about, or in like a writer's community or in a poetry seminar, they'll know what you're talking about. It's 4 pages of just like free form, pen to paper. It's not a journal. It is just get all the garbage out of your brain so that the creativity can flow through you. I think The Artist's Way is so cool. I have not yet completed it though, because it is hard and it's a commitment. Rachel, what's your relationship with it?
It's really funny because I kept thinking of The Artist's Way during our interview, but I wasn't sure if Laura wanted that as a comparable or not. So a couple of years ago, I was in Austin with my sister and my cousins, and we're all kind of woo-woo, and we were having this really good time. And I was kind of at a moment, like an inflection point, if you will. And I thought that perhaps I wanted to do more writing. And then in the Airbnb, there was a bookshelf, and there were 6 copies of The Artist's Way with a note that said, please take one if you feel compelled. And so I was like, clearly I'm supposed to take a copy of this book. And I came home very motivated and I started reading it. And I did a couple months of the morning pages, that stream of consciousness, first thing when you wake up. But it did migrate to midday pages and then afternoon pages. And then finally I was like, I am driving myself a little crazy trying to stay on track. I read the entire book. She has incredible advice for being a creative and embracing your inner life and trying to challenge yourself as an artist. So no matter what, whether you follow the process or just read it, tons of value. But I think The Artist's Way has stuck around and has such longevity because it's really good advice for helping you get in touch with yourself, journal / morning page, and do a little inward looking.
I think if we were to look at what Laura's doing, the big unlock, what they do is they give you a little autonomy. And it's, and even Laura's method, if you listen, like just 4 minutes, just 4 days a week, just do it for 4 weeks. It's not that sort of like structured. You have to do it every day. You have to do it. Which I think for a lot of people, if you commit to a habit and then you miss a day, you quit.
Yes.
So that that is a really revelatory way to make journaling a habit that will stick. It's make it something that fits into your life rather than dictates your life.
Yes. So I think the big unlock, incredibly intrigued by, and also the artist way, something I would recommend.
Yeah. Do them both. Rachel, anything else you want to, because you are our journaling, I would say, like my North Star when it comes to journaling. Anything else you want to say about journaling before we close it down for today?
I guess my last thing is I think it's always a beautiful gift. I don't think anyone is ever upset to receive a notebook. And it's just a simple and heartfelt way to say, I'm granting you a space to share your thoughts and feelings and dreams if you want. And I'm trying very hard to get the girls, my daughters, into journaling as well.
They'll do it. Well, this has been another episode of The Connection Code, a podcast about friends, connections, work, and everything in between. This is a production by two friends, Rachel Gilman-Rischel and me, Gina Anderson-Cohen. You can follow us on Instagram or on LinkedIn using our full names. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much to Laura Rubin for joining us today on the podcast. Thank you for listening. And thank you to Ben Cleaver for editing this podcast.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Shira.